Hey, this is Math Minutes Pro with Dr. Harrison. And today we're going to talk about how to solve two-step, or sometimes referred to as multi-step equations. And we're going to deal with some inverse operations. We're going to deal with subtraction property of equality, addition property of equality, and division property of equality. We're also going to deal with the distributive property as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we have a first equation of negative 4 times x plus 7, and that equals 11. All right. Now, in examining this, we need to get rid of this coefficient, negative 4, and also positive 7, which is a constant. But we get rid of the constant first and then the coefficient. So what's the opposite of adding 7? Right, subtracting 7. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. Draw our line, and then we add down. So I'm going to cross that out because 7 plus a negative 7 is 0. Go back to the left, bring down the negative 4 times x. Bring down equals, and then 11 plus negative 7, or 11 minus 7, is going to give you 4. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and write this step again. So our first step is the subtraction property of equality. Now I'm going to write this again so we can make the second step explicit. Negative 4 times x equals 4. Now we need to get rid of this coefficient, negative 4. The opposite of multiplying x by negative 4 is to divide x by negative 4. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. So we divide this by the coefficient. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. Bring down the x equals positive divided by a negative is a negative. 4 divided by 4, and that gives you 1. So that's negative 1. X equals negative 1. Very good. Now let's take another type of equation that involves the use of the distributive property. Here we have negative 2 times the quantity of b plus 5, and we're going to set that equal to negative 6. Now, before we do anything, we want to get rid of the parentheses, and so we're going to use the distributive property of equality, and we're going to multiply this negative 2 times the b right there. When you multiply that, you get negative 2b, or negative 2 times b. Okay, we're going to bring down the plus symbol. Now let's multiply that negative 2 times 5. Negative 2 times 5. Okay, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. So actually, I'm going to do it a little differently. Instead of writing plus negative 10, I'm just going to write minus 10. There you go. So negative 2 times b is negative 2b. Negative 2 times a positive 5 would give us that minus 10 right there. And we're going to set that equal to, bring down the negative 6. Okay, now we need to get rid of the negative 2, which is the coefficient, and the negative 10, which is the constant. Remember, we get rid of the constant first, negative 10. So the opposite of subtracting 10 is to add 10. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. So we add 10 here. Don't forget to draw that line. And negative 10, and remember, we're adding down. So negative 10 plus positive 10 is 0. So we just cross that out. Go to the left. Bring down negative 2 times b. Bring down the equal sign. Negative 6 plus positive 10. When you're adding integers with different signs, it's more positive. and then you subtract 10 minus 6, that gives you 4. So that's what we have here. Now, we need to get rid of that -2, the coefficient, in order to solve for b. And I'm going to write that again. So I'm going to bring this down. -2 times b equals 4. And here, this was the use, our first step is the distributive property, actually. And then the second step was the addition property of equality. And now we're going to use the division property of equality, because the opposite of multiplying b by -2 is to divide b by -2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. That crosses out. -2 divided by -2 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. Bring down b equals. Positive divided by negative is a negative number. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we have b equals -2. Always circle your final answer. Take a look at that for a moment. Well, you can always pause if you want to take notes. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the third problem. And I'm going to show you one where sometimes it looks a little different, but we still solve it practically the same way. Here we have -13 equals -h minus 7. Okay? Now, usually you're used to seeing the variable on the left side of the equation. In this case, it's on the right side. So I'm just going to rewrite the problem. -h minus 7 equals -13. Okay? All right, that's what we're used to seeing. Now, we need to get rid of this coefficient. And what is that coefficient in front of h? It's -1, even though you don't see the 1. And then this constant, -7. We have to get rid of the constant first. So we're going to use the addition property of equality. What is the opposite of subtracting 7? We add 7. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other. Draw that line. Now, remember, -7 plus +7 is 0. Remember, you're always adding down. So we bring down that -1 times h, or -h, equals. And then we have -13 plus +7. Remember, you're adding down. So the it's more negative, so you know the answer is going to be negative. And then 13 minus 7, that's 6, so it's -6. Now, let's go ahead. We use the addition property of equality here. Now we need to get rid of that -1, the coefficient. I'm going to bring it down again. And then we're going to do the opposite of multiplying h by -1, which is to divide h by -1. And -1. Now, I'm just so you know, we said that's -1, so I'm going to put a -1 here. But you don't have to do that, okay? Just understand that that coefficient of h is -1. Negative divided by negative is 1, so negative divided by negative is a positive. Bring down the h, bring down the equal sign, and then we have a negative divided by negative is a positive again, so that's 6 divided by 1 is 6. H equals 6. So there you have it. We solved 3 different types of multi-step equations using inverse operations, the distributive property, addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality. So thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Patreon page on my video description below. On my Patreon page, you can get access to exclusive math lessons, study tips, live Q&A, and more. See you next time.